and the rahmah and blessings of Allah be upon you. Inshallah ta'ala, everyone is doing well. This is Sheikh Ibrahim Atijani with some insights on Zikrullah and the names, moving along with our series on Zikr, invocations, um, as well as going intimately into those from video 1, 2, 3, and this being the fourth. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In Surah 17 and 44, Allah states, "The seven heavens and the earth and all that is therein glorify Him, and there is not a thing but glorifies His praise. But you understand not their glorification. Truly, He is ever forbearing, oft forgiving." Everything in creation is sustained by a zikr, is composed, whether it's the birds, atoms and their frequencies, subatomic particles, everything glorifies Allah in a particular way that it is made. The seven heavens are the seven planes of being, and everything in the universe, as I said, Tusabbihullahu glorifies Allah. The reason most people don't understand the glorification because they don't know La ilaha illallah. We usually read the translation, depending on what book you have, it may say that there's nothing worthy of worship except Allah, or there is no ilah, there is no God, there is no deity, only Allah. And higher than that, a higher understanding is that Allah is the only reality. But that's not concerning, La ilaha illallah is not concerning the translation of Arabic into English. If you want to know more about La ilaha illallah or take the pathway that leads directly to the reality of it, send an email to secretofallah@gmail.com. There's a spiritual pathway that leads directly there. So moving right along, the first thing that's revealed in the Quran is Surah 96 and its first ayat. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa. Recite in the name of your Lord who created. There's a major secret in Bismi, especially the Ba and the Aleph, which we're not going to go into here. All of the realities, seen and unseen, exist in the Quran. The whole entire Quran, every single chapter, exists within the seven ayats of Surah Al-Fatiha. Those seven ayats are contained within the Basmala, which is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, meaning in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is contained within the Ba, the point beneath the Ba. As Sayyidina Ali said, Radiallahu ta'ala an, I am the point beneath the Ba. There's a very deep reality within this. If you consider an infinitesimal point from which everything in creation manifested and is connected, is something worthy of meditating on. Surah Baqarah, it speaks on the names as well. Now, when I say names, you may consider just, okay, this is just the name of the thing. It's insignificant, which is very significant. When the Quran speaks on names, it's speaking about the actual archetype of a thing. Even when someone calls your name, you respond. You're aware. Everything in the universe has its name, and this ismi is actually the essence of that very thing. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 30, it reads, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When your Lord said to the angels, I am putting a successor on earth, they said, Will you place someone there who will cause corruption on it and shed blood while we glorify you with your praise and extol your holiness? Allah answered, surely I know that which you know not. He taught Adam all the names. So here you see that Allah taught Adam all of the names. He set them before the angels and said, tell me the names of these, if what you say be true. They said, glory be to you. We have no knowledge except whatever you taught us. You are the all-knowing, the all-wise. Then he said, O Adam, tell them their names. When Adam had told them their names, Allah said to the angels, did I not say to you, I know the secrets of the heaven and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you conceal. When we said to the angels, bow down before Adam, they all bowed, except for Iblis. He refused and acted proudly and became an unbeliever. So you see, with Adam getting the knowledge of the names from Allah, he was able to name creation, knowledge that the angels didn't have, as well as name the angels. And Allah commanded the angels to bow to Adam. So within this, you see that knowing the names or the archetypes gives command over the forces of nature, to where even the angels themselves bow to Adam. And angels are angles of light. So even the very angles of light that everything is constructed off of, because everything in the universe is composed of light, even that will be subjected when you call on to these names with the formula of Zik. There's 99 names of Allah and they form everything in existence, regardless of what it is. Everything is based off of that archetype. That archetype is the actual essence of that thing. So when you meditate on it, as the Quran says, that there are signs on the horizon and signs within yourselves. So when you meditate on these names and use the formula of Zikrullah, invoking these names repeatedly over and over, you actually tune in to that actual frequency of that thing to bring forth it in manifestation, as well as stimulate that vibration within your own self. So this is the importance of using the Zikrullah with the names. Also in Suratul Luqman, Ayat 20, Allah says, do you not, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, do you not see that Allah has made subject to you whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and amply bestowed upon you his favors, apparent and unapparent. But of the people is he who disputes about Allah without knowledge or guidance or an enlightening book. So when you consider that the names are the archetypes that bring everything into existence, that which exists also to tap into it and causes the forces of nature to submit to you, this is a worthy endeavor to embark upon, especially with the knowledge that Allah has made everything in the heavens as well as in the earth subject to man, causing the angels to bow. The only one that did not bow was Iblis or Shaitan. And Shaitan is actually our carnal nature, the carnal self. The carnal self was created complete. So its purpose is to pull man down, to be a gravity upon man. Man in our creation, we have an animalistic nature coming from the lower brain. Also, the belly. Within the belly there is neurons or actual brain cells. So depending on what we eat physically and what we put into our systems, that can have a pull on us as well. So a lot of times that leads us to um, things like greed or things like gluttony. These are all the lower natures. So even having whispers within our own mind, which are just subconscious programs or subconscious traumas causing us to act in certain ways. These are all pulls of the lower nature. But through Dhikrullah and using the formulas of the names, as well as different um, Quranic passages, different formulas of zik, man elevates and rises above his not only his carnal nature, but rises above even the pull of subconscious programs. He begins to change them and influence them and affect them, causing his own lower nature to submit and bow to him. So this is the importance of zikrullah and the names. Just came to give a brief insight on this topic. And inshallah ta'ala, if you have any questions, you can email secretofallah@gmail.com. Or if you would like to take the tariqah or inquire more about the tariqah, Tijaniya, in regards to the secret of Allah, reach out to the same email. Inshallah. You have any questions?
Yeah. Would you be able to mention what are what the list of the seven heavens?
The seven heavens is it can be applied to several different things. Literally, there are I can't list them off the top of my head of what they are, but this is talking about the seven heavens in space.
Mm.
So there are 7 degrees that's labeled Islamically, and it categorizes certain distances in actual space. But the seven heavens deal with much more things than just space, because there's 7 heavens, there's also 7 earths, there's 7 hells. So it deals with many different things, just like the 7 layers of the Earth's atmosphere. You have those. And then you also have the 7 governing planets that influence different glands in the body, several different glands in the body. You also had the 7 different organs in the body in the system, which the 7 chakras are based on. The chakras are kind of like a energetic representation of physical glands in the body. So all of 7 heavens are not just applied to also the several states of consciousness, the several circuits of the brain, which were symbolic in many different cultures and religions and books, just like the 7 churches of Asia. In the book of Revelation, it spoke about man having 7 stars in his right hand. So these are going through a lot of different things, but it's not chiefly referring to the heavens or the skies.
So it's not like
In Islamic culture and in Islamic literature, the 7 heavens are listed out. They're Arabic names for them. There's certain distances. So people think about those 7 heavens, and they say that within this heaven, this happens. Within that happens. Even when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made it Isra wa Miraj, when he made his ascent through the heavens, he went to several different levels. But this is not actually in space. Yeah. So it's applied. It's been applied to space most often because many people like to look from without. But these are things that exist outside the body, even in the 7 hells. Because if you think when a person has enlightenment or know the reality of La ilaha illallah, they purify their system and they ascend through the 7 levels of the nafs,
mm, that's
which they can be heavens. However, if a person focuses on their own lust and they're governed by their desires, what happens is that whole entire system is just turned to hell. So now it becomes 7 hells, which is applied to the 7 deadly sins, and people are pursuing carnal things. So 7 heavens, it has multiple different applications, But Islamically, I don't remember the names of them, the seven strata, which is it can be easily obtained for sure. But when you get into that, they will start to speak on the different levels of the heavens outside of the self, outside of the Earth's atmosphere, and go from different degrees. This one is from here to here, and then another one from here to here. You see, and there's a whole theology that revolves around that, which is only outside of the self. So even have the seven vibratory frequencies that we can see, which make up the seven different layers of the rainbow, the seven different spectrals of light that the human eye can see. So these are all seven heavens.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you pursue, you can look into them deeply on any level whatsoever. And all the levels are very, very important. The greatest ones is the ones that's within us, but all the levels to look at it for knowledge is very, very important because is very intriguing knowledge, and whenever you taking in more knowledge, you know your awareness of different things expand. So that's very, very important to look into, for sure. Is very important. But and as it says, there are signs on the horizon, meaning outside ourselves, and there are signs within ourselves. Yes.
You already kind of, well, you definitely answered my question. My next question, um, in your explanation about the seven heavens, but I'm going to ask again anyway, so you make it kind of hard to come up with questions. So my next question to you is, you spoke about La ilaha illallah. Could La ilaha illallah be used as a zik to subdue the cardinal self?
Um, La ilaha illallah, and knowing the reality, um, cardinal self and righteous self, they won't even be concerns.
Mm-hmm.
There's many zik that can go towards that end, and at one point to some people, that can be the focus. That can be the focus, and any of the names of Allah, meditating on it, any zik that you do meditating on it, will purify the heart, as it states in the Quran that he who succeeds that purifies it, and he fails who corrupts it. Meaning the own self, meaning our consciousness, literally our layers of consciousness and our being. So any zik that you focus on, naturally you're going to gravitate higher beyond that, and that desire to leave. Usually, the desire of carnal, a corporeal reality, physical pleasures on things that harm the being. Because there's things you can take pleasure in something that doesn't harm the being, but the taking pleasure in something that harms the being, thoughts or even actions that are haram, and they're haram because they cause degeneration of consciousness, the generation of the physical self. So any zik that a person is doing, it absolutely raises a person, because that person is putting their attention on this particular thing, and that thing is so high above something physical, lustful, or something that has to deal with desire, or something that has to deal with material wealth. It's going completely away from that. Usually, what people act on it, because it happens. People act on carnal things when the self is not tamed. Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba said that the carnal self, he said, is like a wildcat. You have to be complete. You got to be alert and be watchful, because if you take your eyes off it, it'll pounce on you. And even in different scholars even put the nefsi mara, or the evil inciting self, above shaitan when it comes to danger. The carnal self teaches a lot of lessons, especially whatever the object of a person's desire is. When a person has a particular object of their desire, their soul wants them to learn a lesson there. And instead of them learning the lesson and seeing that calling on it, they act on it. قل أعوذ برب الناس. You see, Malik Nas, Ilahi Nas. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind, the King of mankind, the God of mankind. Min sharil waswasil khannas. From the evil that whispers, you see, into the hearts of mankind. This is literally subconscious suggestions. Waswas is subconscious suggestions, period. So if a person has done an action, a lustful action, or something that deals with desire or something carnal, just that alone, when they see it again, they may be pulled towards it because they've already acted on it. And the more they act on it, the more they want to act on it because the brain naturally works this way. You see, the more they want to do it, and the appetite gets bigger for it because they're feeding it. This is the biggest thing. You know, they're feeding it. Haven't learned the lesson at that level of consciousness. They haven't learned it. So it would entreat them until they learn that lesson. Everything carnal can teach a lesson that's way above its own nature. But most people, instead of them looking at that in the light of learning a lesson from it and learning the lessons, they generally rise above that. And especially not acting on it because there's no desire we have that we have to act on it. None whatsoever. We choose to act on the desires because we have not subdued it or we haven't looked towards paths of elevation or even question why did that come? Why do I have a thought of this? And is there truly any exaltation in that? Because usually when a person acts on a desire and it's done, they're as incomplete and unsatisfied as they were before they did it. And they just repetitively go down that same road, that same track. Even in Al-Quran Kareem, when people are getting ready, they're on in judgment, and they said that Satan caused us to enter Jahannam. Satan caused us to enter the hell. And Shaitan, he said, I absolve myself. La ilaha illallah. All I did was call you. You answered my call. So this is one of the things. When we have different suggestions, it calls us. But us answering it develops our appetite. And that appetite keeps getting bigger as we feed it. This is why, in the old cartoons, they always had that sign that said, don't feed the animals. When you see in the cartoon, they feed the animals and that animals start following them home and following them, start tearing everything up. It's a sign, as well as when we give feeding into our appetites based on carnal, based on material, it grows and grows and grows and grows. Just as with anything, it could be with with drugs or alcohol. With alcohol, it starts small and the person doesn't like the taste. It's disgusting. And then they get into it, they say, oh, I'm never going to have that again. And then they get into another social situation, they have it. It's a little bit lighter, it's still not pleasing to them. But then that evil becomes an acquired taste. Then they go from social functions to drinking by themselves. And then they go into anytime they get stressed or if they want to have fun, they drink. So while the liquor store is making money off of whether you're happy, sad, birthday, holiday, anniversary, it's 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 13, you know what I mean? Any of the hours, you know what I'm saying? 1400, whatever time it is, they making money because this is something that grows. The human being system is so is created in such a way that it adapts to whatever harms it. And when it's harmed and it adapts more and more, it can take more. So certain pleasures are not gratified with that little bit. So it goes beyond, further and further and further beyond. And this is even going with crime. When people do crime, they start off doing something small. Then it gets bigger. They get more daring, get more bold, and their appetite grows. Even people who have disorders, sociopathy, and people who have these different things, where the nefs or the base level of consciousness is completely out of control, and now they're just a passenger, and it's the driver. It becomes very controlling, and they can no longer have the will to even reason. It's beyond their reason. They're just pure nefs, you know. So everything in the appetite grows, and that begins to cover us. And the more we do these different things, um, carnal, have discordant thoughts, discordant actions. A lot of times it builds that appetite, or if not just building the appetite, it programs us to react in that manner. And it takes a long time to really observe it and do things, have a psychological regimen or some type of way to exercise the brain in a certain way where the nature wants to pull us away from that and raise us above that, think, learn from that, and actually become whole, regenerate man as human beings instead of degenerate man. Because all of those things only degenerate the system. All of these things, regardless what they just bring us closer to being materialistic, animalistic, governed by the lower brain, medulla oblongata, instead of being governed by the higher brain, beginning to having insight, having thought, things of inspiration, um, and compassion and empathy and sympathy and feeling remorse and feeling pleased just for doing a good deed. All of these things are in the brain, but it's about the different what gets water. Is it positive or is negative? You see, this is the biggest thing, and this is why if you do an Adam's weight of good, we'll see it. If we do an Adam's weight of evil, we'll see it. This is not karma. This is literally cause and effect. This is why in the Quran, in many places, it states that if a person does his good, Allah says it's for their own soul. If a person does an evil, they wrong their own soul. So this way we come into using the formula zik, and we use certain formulas in order for us to rise above just identifying with the body. It's just like you getting in the car and then you identify and you say you the car. You get a flat, oh my tire flat. Like it's a part of your body. It's the same thing that we do with the body. Because we connected in a wrong spectrum. You see, we connected to the creation instead of its essence and the creator of it. Because when a person begins to rise in levels, zikr Allah literally brings us into consciousness of Allah, reality of Allah, taqwa Allah. Taqwa Allah, most people say that's fear. Fear that has nothing to do with fear. Taqwa is consciousness, awareness. It's awareness. When you go into the water, you have taqwa. You don't fear the water. You have awareness of it. Everyone who can swim perfectly, even Michael Phelps, know that he can drown. He's aware of the water, and in awareness, you become in harmony with it, and you move with it. You see, so it's different degrees, but the zikr law literally brings you into seeing the reality more and more. And when we begin to see that reality, we pull toward that reality because that's the purpose of every life that a person has is the reality. Every desire comes from stimulating something in a human being for them to change and turn from it. It doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't do enough damage, or sometimes it does too much, but for us to turn from it. All of these experiences, regardless of what they are, good, bad, and indifferent, they all lead to us and call to us to come into the knowledge of the reality of Allah. Because with the understanding, the proper understanding of La ilaha illallah, we know that regardless of what these things are, happening to us, with us, by us, it's all Allah. You have any more questions?
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned evoking the 99 names of Allah. During the series, will you be discussing the 99 names of Allah?
I will I'll finish the series with a dua, and within that dua there's a formula, and it contains all 99 names of Allah, and it go through each one of them in invocation until it ends. Do you have any more questions?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Everyone appreciates the questions as well. This has been some brief insight, so inshallah ta'ala, share the video if you feel it's beneficial. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. سيدنا محمد رسول الله عليه سلام الله إن ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلم تسليما. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Peace.